Hi and welcome. I'm Les Bubka, and this is an accidental podcast or something like that. My guest today is a Kudo Mal, Sanchez Jones, head coach of the Wales Kudo organization, and a great guy. Welcome, Mal. How are you?
I'm great, Les. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me come on. I've been doing a lot of interviewing of other people, so it's quite different being in the other seat.
Yeah, it feels different, isn't it? Uh, can you tell us something about yourself?
Well, I'm from South Wales. I'm very proud of being Welsh, like every other Welshman. Uh, Rugby's a big thing in my life, just as much as martial arts, but I've never played. I've been rubbish at playing rugby, but I started in martial arts mainly due to health. I started in karate. Well, actually, I started in judo first, then karate. Worked my way through a few different styles. Always cross-trained, and it led me to kind of look into things from a mixed martial art point of view, which led me to Kudo. Because Kudo is a mixed martial art or a hybrid system, and it was a good fit for me because it's not the type of place where you're going to have somebody that says, your back's not straight, or
Mm.
lift your chin, 3 centimeters, or move this technique here, or don't do this, you might kill someone. The reality for me was a good fit because I could do what I wanted to do to survive when I was on the mat rather than go against points.
Yeah. I'm gonna touch later about the back because I loved it in one of your
Yeah,
videos.
yeah, sure.
I'm saying the same thing, but we're gonna get to that. So I always ask people because I'm big about mental health, and I know you are big
Yeah,
about
yeah.
mental health. Um, what impact has karate had on your mental health?
It's had a huge impact really because when I went to join karate in the first place, I didn't want to be there. Uh, I kind of just wanted friends. I had severe asthma, severe eczema. I had a lovely time in primary school, up to about 11 years old. The kids were very friendly and stuff, very accommodating. And then when I went to secondary school, it all changed. So basically the kids were pretty mean. My eczema was pretty bad on my hands, so it's like you've got old man's hands. I got cuts on it. I couldn't really bend my fingers, so I kind of the stereotypical kid, the sick kid. So when a friend of mine had said come and join karate, I was like, oh no, I'd been to judo and I'd had my experiences there and I'd done the belt system, and I just thought, no, it's not for me. But I met a guy, obviously was the instructor, and he was quite a small guy, but he didn't see my eczema and asthma as a disability. He seen it as something that we could work around, and and he was very passionate about it. He was a very kind of supportive guy, and I suppose that was kind of the first step for me of, people talk about confidence building and being accommodating to disabilities and stuff. But I think like mental health tends to be a term that's given for adults, not children.
Mhm.
Children are just expected to get on with those things. So I would say karate, from the first point of view, give me something that was enough time away from someone. Unlike judo, where judo you're in constant contact, with karate I could punch things away from me. And having eczema and things like that was one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to separate myself from it. So as a child, there was all those elements, and it gave me that place of belonging. So I'm not going to talk ill of my parents, but there's you're of a generation where you're told, "There's the door. We'll see you in a few hours when you're hungry," and you're into the community. And then you've got the other side, which is kind of, well, actually, I want a place that I know is safe, right? So I could go to a karate club, and my instructor, and I always knew I was safe there, and I was always wanted, and that was really, really powerful for me. And that's the bit that throughout my life, going back to the dojo, has always been my safe place. So whether it be marriages or any sort of breakdown,
Mhm.
um, in your life. I've only been married once, by the way. Say marriages. I've only been married once, but if it's a relationship breakdown, I could go back. If I had problems with my kids, with their problems, I could go there. Friendships. So it gave me that solid base. But till this year, I started teaching about 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago, and I used that as another way of helping me to avoid my own problems because I could help other people. So there's I want to look at mental health in a martial arts club. It is the art, but it's just as much about the dojo and the students in it, and the families that are there to support, and the wider network. Like karate is a style, say for instance, or a community. So just I could go on forever about mental health and martial arts. I love it.
Yeah. It is important that you find a club. It's not necessarily karate, but any form of exercise or
Yeah,
community. When you got that support without the judgmental side of it,
yeah, definitely.
or when people makes you feel comfortable. I find that as well. That for me it was the same
Yeah,
pattern, having a karate club where nobody was judging me.
yeah, that's definitely. It seems to be quite a lot of competition in certain clubs. It depends what the aim of the club is.
Yeah.
If it's a very tournament-led club, then everybody is facing in the direction of a competition. So it doesn't really give the holistic development, which a martial arts gives.
Mm.
It's not all about the fighting, and I say that as a Kudo guy, but where we do a lot of fighting, but it's if you haven't got those key elements, then there's no point in going. There's no fight to have, is there?
I think it's dependent on the instructor, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
The instructor brings that atmosphere and what he wants to do.
yeah,
So you started with the traditional martial arts, and then suddenly you went. I
yeah,
need to go somewhere else and find, and you found Kudo.
yeah,
And my question about Kudo: what is Kudo? Because some of the people are not aware of it. I follow Kudo from nearly the beginning.
yeah,
I like it, but
yeah.
please, you are the practitioner of it. Explain.
Okay, well, it was founded by Azuma Takashi in Japan. Azuma was a student of Masayama, and Masayama was at the stage of kind of development Kyokushin where they were toying with bringing back the face shots, and the head shots, and it was a bit of a split at that time in the organization, but Azuma was adamant that that's the direction it was going to go, and was given the blessings. And I think the beauty of the education system in Japan is that they've got a very good level of judo through the school time. So Azuma was a very good black belt. I've been lucky enough to speak to him about it a few times, and he talks more about his losses in judo, and and says, "No, I just needed to be punching things," So he's basically people quite often think Kudo is an extension of Kyokushin, but it's not. Early days it was based on the striking was based on Kyokushin, and the grappling and the submissions were based on judo. So a hybrid art, and that's where most people remember it. It's like Kudo, it's like judo and karate together. But it's Daido Juku, which is what Azuma was trying to push, or Jukucho was trying to push, was actually he wanted it as a lifelong learning program. As Budo, it was about the warrior spirit to be able to push yourself, but to make sure that everybody could get involved in the families, and that's the bit that I kind of connected with as a martial artist. But then the sport came out of it. So it was Daido Juku Kudo, and Kudo is pretty much the platform that most people see. So if you Google it, you'll see probably Russians, Japanese, the Ukrainians literally going at a top level. And so basically, it was about reducing the rules and getting as close to a real fight as possible. So you get your strikes from distance, so kicks from distance. You get close quarter strikes like elbows, knees, headbutts. Headbutts for all of our guys who are going to shout it out. Yes, we love the headbutt. You've got you can grab the gi. So we wear a gi, we wear a suit, and the suit is different. I don't know if anybody's noticed this from the Kudo, but we've got a two-piece suit, so the sleeves don't rip off. And the sleeves are shorter, so they're literally at the elbow, which I think as a suit is a much better idea because it's more functional. It's heavier than a karate suit, not a kata suit, not like that heavy suit, to get all the sounds and stuff. But it's a very robust suit. And that's because obviously when you're throwing, you need that suit to be there. Strangulations with the suit. So if you start moving into judo, groundwork has been influenced by Brazilian jiu-jitsu, obviously. Stand-up's been influenced by Thai boxing. But for me, being in the UK, I'm trying to get a little bit more catch or more wrestle based art, because if you watch Kudo on the mat, you've got 10 seconds in the clinch. So basically, you've got to strike. As soon as you come into a clinch or grab, it's counting down from 10. You go to the ground, you get 30 seconds on the ground. A safety measure for me, which I love about Kudo, is that when you go to mount, you can't ground and pound. You have to simulate. So you're literally just going for the end of the strikes. But if you're on the bottom, so you've got the guy on top of you, you can hit up as hard as you like. You can really like level it out. And I think some people say, well, what's all that about? But when you're there, you'll realize that actually the head guards that we wear, so that was the last bit of equipment that we talk about, is called the NHG. So basically, it's like a bubble on your head, but it's tied on. So it's very tight to your ears, very tight to your jawline. It's got a breathing space at the bottom, but it doesn't take away the impact. If you get hit with that, it goes through your neck like nobody's business. It actually is a lot harder taking a headshot with the neck than it would be without, because obviously it spreads the surface. So Kudo is international. In the UK, it's tiny. That's why I'm throwing myself out there. I didn't really want to do this, but Kudo Mal and pushing, whether it's the comedy side of it or whatever, I'm just trying to make it more accessible. But the big players, the Russians got their own federation, the Japanese, obviously a big federation, and the rest of the world are literally just trying to catch up with it. Started in the early 90s. So my point of view, if you wear a gi, you wear a suit and you can strike and you don't mind doing a bit of throwing, or if you're a judoka and you like throwing a few punches, it's the perfect place to be. Not as a style, but as a format.
Yeah, my lineage is as well from that big breakage in Kyokushin.
Yeah.
We went more with Ashihara karate, so for me the influence is Hideuki Ashihara. So there's a front as well. There's no punches to the head, but we added punches later on.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned those gis, because for us, I always bring those sleeves halfway up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Yeah. And every time I go in a seminar, people, oh, where did you buy this one? I said, no, I just sew it up.
Yeah.
But it's more natural. I don't like my sleeves being around my wrists.
No.
Forearm open. So yeah. And we're
Well,
using the head guard as well.
yeah.
How different? I've got the bar ones, regular ones, and I've got the bubble one as well.
Yeah.
I do like the bubble one.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that it's quite a bit of a distortion of the distance.
Right.
Because
Is it? Have you got you've probably got the super safe one though, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because basically the head guards. I originally through karate practice, because that's how I got into Kudo. It was I put a few things online where my karate students were just fighting, scrapping, and someone said, "Oh, are you Kudo?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And and then they sent me some links, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm not going into that. Looks like you're gonna get killed." It's a bit different being a club mentality and then putting it like that sort of level. But the head guard itself, when it was first made, the like Koshiki karate still used the safe, and it's the bubble is actually really quite far away from your face.
Yeah.
And because it's like an egg shape, it does distort a lot more. And the worst thing about the super safe is hooks. In Koshiki, you can't throw hooks, so it's no big deal for them. But because it's so far away, I've got a reasonably big nose. You know what I mean? So I get caught somewhere on the nose. If my nose is not bleeding by the end of a fight without it, then you're no good, right? Because you could hit it from miles away. But it's like having something quite far away from your face. And when someone throws a hook, it's much easier to land the hook. And imagine the torque on that on your neck. It's like super dangerous. So Azuma Takashi had a copyright problem with the original headguard, so then remade it. And it's a serious bit of kit, the Kudo headguard, because it's a lot closer. And they use the plastic they use is not only super strong, it's very clear. But if you get a copy of the headgear, because there's a lot of cheap copies out there, then it's very blurry. It's really, really not good. And also when you're trying to clean it to stop it from steaming up, then you've got a bigger issue with the cheaper ones. So,
Mhm.
the Kudo organization sell only mainly to the Kudo students anyway, and they're well over £100 a head gear. So it's not a cheap thing to get into. But I liken it to things like kendo and that. If you're going to get into it, you've got to wear the proper stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Safety first, always.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's funny with the noses you meant because my students are laughing when I've been using those with the bars.
yeah,
I had to take off the front shield
yeah.
and put the padding around. So still with that frame, when I've been
Yeah.
punched, they've been hitting my nose. The frame was hitting my nose. That's how big it is. They're always laughing because I've got little weird padding sticking out from it.
I like looking through old pictures of it and seeing which side of my face my nose is on. But the other thing with those head guards with the bar, with the small space to look through, is that I was talking to Brian Bates about this actually because they're good from the point of view they take the impact, but you always have to have your chin down to see
Yeah.
through the gap, which is a good thing because it teaches you to keep your chin down. But when you want to fight from distance, you can't do that because when lifting your chin up is obviously dangerous unless you're far away. So that's one thing, and they don't tie on very well to the head. So
Yeah,
you
they're spinning.
you yeah, when you go to the ground, it's game over. You have to stop. So that's another benefit, of the head guard.
I like to use them sometimes because they create confusion.
Yeah,
People suddenly you can't see somebody's attacking self-defense kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can't see what's going on,
No,
but
no.
emulate quite correctly when you've been punched and you're just dazzled, so you kind
Yeah,
of don't see and don't know. But that's the only use for them. I've
yeah.
kind
They
of tried.
blink you, don't they? They literally put the tunnel vision on you.
Yeah,
The actual visor of the Kuda helmets that's behind the eye. So
I can see.
so you've got full spectrum, yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't see half the things that are coming.
Okay, so you kind of covered my other question because I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you why though, but you already said that.
yeah, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the change of the name between
Yeah,
Daito Juku to Kudo
yeah,
because I followed in 90s 2000 or 2005 6
yeah.
there was big plans to introduce Kudo to Olympics.
That's
Uh,
right.
at least that's what I was being told or I gathered the information that change
Yeah,
is to kind of de-associate yourself
yeah,
from karate
yeah,
because karate with all the mess in it, then it's not having much of a chance being in Olympics. Now it happened
yeah,
twice for 1 year. But
yeah,
Kudo got the one set of rules
yeah.
which I think would be very suited for Olympics. Is that still going? That was the reason, or am I getting this
Yeah.
wrong?
Again, I've I've asked this to the Grandmaster, to Jukucho, and he gives a very long answer. And again, it's subjective because a few other people have their own opinion. But Kudo was really to just give the platform, the elevation it needed. Like you're saying, it's much easier to remember. You've got judo and you've got kudo, right? Karate, and it kind of sits it somewhere in the middle, or maybe a little bit more to judo in some ways, just from the phonetics of it. But if you speak to Jukucho about Daido Juku Kudo, he says, for instance, like my black belt, I put something online to say I was a Kudo black belt because it's simpler for people to understand in the same way that going to the Olympics is Kudo. But I was told off because I've got a black belt in Daido Juku Kudo, and basically the reason he was saying that is that if you are no longer on the path, so to the truth, if you like. So that's the idea. The same, similar to Kyokushin, I guess, in the way that concept was developed, is that if you give up Kudo as a practice, you're no longer a black belt in the organization, is what
Oh,
basically told. So you can't just go, well, I got a Kudo black belt and collect it and then chuck it on the pile with all the rest of the black belts. Because the concept of Kudo is not to create a style, it's to work at techniques and I don't know ways of fighting that actually make sense and will make you the best fighter. So Kudo is it's amateur, but if you see a top level, it's not amateur. The Russian team are obviously funded and stuff. It's if I was to get into MMA, personally, there's two things I like about the martial art. One is wearing the suit and the traditions and the etiquette in Japan. I love that. and that'd be very disappointing for me as a practitioner to lose that part. The headgear keeps me safe. I've had enough of being smashed in the nose, jaws broken and stuff like that. So that keeps me safe. I can go to work on a Monday. Everything's all good. And I think that what Kudo was trying to do was make it more palatable for the Olympic Committee, because MMA as an Olympic sport, that people are pushing it, and I hope it does well, to be honest, because I think it's only going to be a benefit for Kudo as well, because Kudo is a mixed martial art wearing a suit and protective gear. So it'd be interesting to see who gets there first. We've got a number of bids around the world, but not enough. I think the MMA community is obviously much bigger. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. You never know, right?
Well, there's kind of two sides of the coin, because if you look on Taekwondo and Judo, it's kind of heavily modified technique.
Yeah.
And they try to, every time I'm going back to my coach for wrestling, it's a new set of rules. You can't do this, can't do that. So it kind of detrimental to the style system itself. So
of course, yeah.
Well,
I think the difference though, Kudo though, Les, is like, for instance, like in Japan, Kudo is delivered one way. In the UK, it's different. In Brazil, it's different. And all the guys around the world do it differently. All that matters is how you put out on the day. When you go to this. So my club is, for instance, is a lot more tailored towards supporting people. And if we get fighters come out of it, we get fighters come out of it. I am not trying to push just for the sporting element. I am trying to push the Daido Jukudo just as much as the Kudo.
Yeah. That brings to another interesting question for me, because I done changes in my style the style which I was taught.
Yeah.
After having being exposed to being thrown like a rag doll on the wrestling. And that was the first thing which I changed, is that straight spine. You have to be flexible and moving around. The straight spine is not good for anything. You'd be thrown like a stick around. So methodology in Kudo. How do you teach? What changes have been done? Is it still karate way of teaching, or you move to a modern scientific methods of judo?
Well, I can't speak for the guys. I know how others teach it. I'm critical of. Let me explain what I don't like first and what I do, because I don't like it when everything's taught in isolation. So if you're teaching striking as just striking, and then throwing, and then so you're practicing then. So like maybe doing karate on a Monday and a BJJ on a Tuesday, and so on and so on. I don't like that. So I try to blend the days. So I still do that in a similar way. So basically, I got a rotation. So one night we'll do striking, and striking's got grabbing in it, but that's as far as we'll go, right? So you don't lose that, but you have that kind of joining part of each lesson, right? And there's sparring every lesson. So if we're doing striking, we do the drills and stuff like that, but then we're sparring, but it's not full contact. It'll be skill development. Then we'll do throwing, Kudo throwing, or nagiwasa. And then it won't be just stop on the floor. It'll kind of control it, get back up. And then I might chuck something else in. But predominantly it'll be, throwing. And the ground the same. I'm lucky enough to have a guy called Steve, our judo Steve, who is a judo black belt. So he's kind of constantly on looking. And then he'll do a judo lesson on the same rotation. And then we have the Kudo night. And then basically, if the people want to come and give it a go, they do it. But they know they're coming to fight. They're coming to test it out. It's the testing night. And nobody really judges for anybody that doesn't come. And you're welcome to come and watch. Right? The problem with MMA is that there's more people watching than participating.
Yeah.
So that's where we even the guys, when we do the Kudo night, they're not battering each other. If there's a difference in skill level, they're literally helping each other along. So no matter what the ability level is, like, you're still supported, but it's fighting. And that way, I think that, like, for karate, for instance, I don't teach line basics. I don't teach kata in the same way. I'll teach bunkai, so I'll teach this application from this kata. If someone wants to grade, so belts are not even really that important in our club. If someone wants to grade in karate or grade in Kudo, then they got to follow the syllabus then. But they would have already known what to do for the syllabus, if that makes sense. So it stops people stood in lines for hours and hours on end. And the problem I've had with this with COVID, it's like 90% of our training is partnered.
Yeah.
So that's an issue when you've got to socially, distance and stuff like that. So,
I, I,
um,
I do love it because I've got exactly very similar stuff to you. I love that part of sports that doesn't matter if it's wrestling, BJJ, judo, boxing. You always got that ends on training sparring.
yeah,
I try to incorporate as much as I can, but some people in my club can't. So like
right,
you, I just say, those who want, let's go spar. Those
yeah,
who can't, let's do something else. Same
yeah,
with kata. I do mostly bunkais and then say,
yeah,
well, that's the kata. We can work on kata. And same
yeah,
as you,
yeah,
I've got the two lines. You do all the Japanese names, forms and stuff, or you just come and train. So it's
yeah.
brilliant to hear that somebody else does it like me as well.
As far as I'm concerned, that's just common sense.
Yeah, it is. It is. It works better. It works better.
Yeah, of course
People.
it does.
The only thing which I changed recently is that I went kind of BJJ style, so
Yeah,
we don't have the grading. We got a grading day, but it's a more award day. So I watch people through the year. Then
yeah,
if I can, I get the outside instructor to have a look what they're doing if I'm not biased,
yeah.
and I just award belts. So there is no payment for belts and stuff like that. It's just you
Ah,
deserve.
that's good.
Off
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
Yeah, it's brilliant. That's a really good idea. I
No,
think, I mean, the belts are good too. It's a reward. One of the guys was making fun and saying like he wants to put it next to his swimming certificate and stuff. It's like, and I like that.
it's kind of a I see that a lot now in people treating it as a kind of driving license.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to the club, got a black belt. Oh, I didn't need to train anymore. I'm
yeah,
off, hang it in the toilet so people can see, and off you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Well, I got to, what I do like again about the Kudo is the not so much because we're still very very small. It's been in the country. A guy called Mohammed Anis in London was here. He's been here for 13 years, I think he said. Lee Hasdall was kind of the first in the UK as a Kudo black belt. And Lee Hasdall is, well, is a phenomenal martial artist. He's legit. He's someone that I've kind of looked to and spoke to during this time of doing Kudo in the UK. But the thing is, it's like the belt. I can go to anywhere, and it doesn't matter what belt you're wearing. Nobody even looks at the belt
Yeah,
because everybody's cross training. Like you could have somebody there that's just giving it a go, and he's probably a black belt in judo or a black belt in whatever. You've just got to be careful, and I love that because, like, in a situation when you're on the street, you don't get the heads up like this guy's got a black belt in karate, or this guy's got this, or this guy's boxed for 10 years. You've got a
what do you
guy
mean?
in front of you
What,
that wants to fight, right?
what do you mean? You not carry with you your first dan certificate to show your opponent when he attacks you? Watch out! I've got my black belt
Yeah,
certificate.
no, no. I mean, like, if imagine you've got like if it's since someone's on the street, you would judge them by the way they look,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Yeah. So you'd think like he's quite muscular. Maybe he goes to the gym. You don't know. I mean, when you're martial arts, you can start picking up on muscle definition of what type of
yeah,
training they're doing, right? But you don't mean they're any good at it. They
yeah,
could have the t-shirt, the UFC tap
yeah.
out or whatever t-shirt on, but they've never been, right? So when you go to the Kudo, I feel it's the same thing, and it gives me the same emotions. It's like, right, when I'm wearing a black belt, so I got a target on my back. That's not like karate, because when you
Yeah,
go to karate and you're wearing a black belt, the white belts run the other way, because you're protected by the rule set. They
yeah,
can only do certain things. Like if you fought someone that's never trained in their life, and then you're told that you can only kick and punch, they stripped them of skills that they would just run at you, probably throw a table at you. They'll do anything, you
yeah,
know. Whereas in Kudo, like I always mention Rennes because Fab in Rennes in France is the one that is really leading Kudo for Europe. He is bringing everybody together. And you go there and you got a guy with a white belt on, and I'm like, I don't give him nothing because he could be anything. I mean, it just means he hasn't graded in Kudo, right? And it's a bad day if the guy's never done anything because you realize very quickly. But at the same time, if he has done something, you're protected, and
yeah.
you never know what they're going to do. Some pull guard, some try and like single leg you, some are just straight trying to steamroll you.
Mm.
Uh, And that's only obviously at top level camp level, but club level is completely different. And I think that's what I was trying to push really. It's not the Neanderthal kind of beat your chest, we're the toughest guys in the world type thing, because that's been done. And you don't need to boast that you can fight if you can fight. You
Yeah.
know, and that's where I think we connect, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. What are your future plans for Kudo in UK? Because I
Well,
heard you gonna
yeah, go.
Brian Bates tried to take you to do some seminars, which
Yeah,
I'm interested in as well.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
love to meet you in person as well. That would be lovely. Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, I suppose my phase one of my plan was to reach out to like-minded martial artists. So it doesn't really matter which martial art it was, because at the end of the day, we do talk about all the other elements of martial arts, but it's underpinned by combat, right? So um, I wanted to do is reach out to people that have potentially got maybe one or two people in their club that, when they get to a level that they think that they can fight and they want to test their skill, or maybe they have to leave their club because you haven't got something that you can kind of give them, or without them kind of jumping into a cage, going into MMA, as without a gi, rash vests, all the rest, and that type of stuff. So I'm looking out there, and the idea to develop Kudo for me in the UK is to have as many places around the UK which are non-members. They're not expecting people to like, I quit my karate, I'm joining Kudo, right? And we're going to be a Kudo club, because that's a long process. So what I was hoping was that I could find enough martial arts around the UK to be able to have almost like a circuit, like a league type thing, a Kudo league, where we could introduce people to that type of level of fighting, without them having to go to international level to fight, because that's a tough day at the office, as they say. If you're going from that level, then I hope that from that sort of stage that people would go, right, actually what I want to do is set up as a branch. When I set up a branch as Kudo, I want to make this legit. I want to be able to follow the syllabus, and I want to be part of the international community. That way, then we can collectively build a British team. So I'm Kudo Wales, so I've got full rights to make a Welsh team. But what I would like to do is have a British team. So we could have. So there's three branches, official branches in the UK. That's myself in Wales. Then you've got Fazil in Kent, and then you've got Anas, who is in Slough in London. When it gets to the stage that I think that Kudo's grown up enough in the UK, then we can present as a committee, and then we can decide who's going to be top. I'm not trying to make myself the big I am. Ideally, I'd like to get Lee Hasdell back on board. And I am plugging that because that's what I'm trying. One of the things I'm trying to do. But I think we need leadership from someone that has been there and done it. I think we need to go it up so the kids have got somewhere that they can actually go and know they can defend themselves. Because that's my biggest drive. I want kids to be able to defend themselves. As adults, we can walk away. I mean, if you have a fight as an adult, there's probably something wrong with you. You could have avoided it. But the kids, they need the support now. So I'd like to see a league grow, and the Kudo grow as an organisation in the UK. So I don't know if that's what you asked for, but
Yeah, that's what I asked for.
yeah.
Now you said about children.
Yeah.
Do you teach full syllabus for everything for children, or you filtering it for, children are kind of sometimes unpredictable. A lot of people worry that martial arts gonna make them more aggressive, or they can use stuff. What's your opinion on that?
I teach the kids pretty much everything. I've got really good rapport with the kids that come to the club. My step of teaching children every single time is to give them, like you're saying, the same experience that I had, where it's non-judgmental, and it's very inclusive and very welcoming. Once I've built that rapport and respect of them, the kids will do absolutely anything to please and not do things wrong. So if I'm talking to them with respect, I never raise my voice in the class. When I raise my voice, is because I'm worried that somebody's going to get twisted in the wrong way, or an injury, or someone's getting a bit too rough. So I raise my voice then, and it's not white noise. So I think like the kids with the head impact, the first grade in Kudo, for instance, they don't fight hit into the head. So they're not doing any hit to the head, and I don't start hitting to the head until their secondary age, and then we keep it to a certain level as well. It's skill development. So I don't think there's a lot really that you can't teach kids if you get the underpinnings right. But if you've got a kid that's coming in and you don't know that child and you're just teaching anything, like strangles and things like that, that kid's gonna, or there's a good chance they're gonna go and do it to other kids. So the connection for me is more and more important than what I teach, and then therefore I tailor it to the individual.
Through the physical exercises and good mentoring, you drain that energy of them, and when they come out after the class, they're thinking to have something to eat and go to sleep. Being aggressive. So,
but it's like though, Les, when you've challenged yourself, like I won't go into anybody's dojo thinking I'm going to walk the floor or I'm going to beat everybody up. I mean, the amount of black belts I've heard, like since COVID, talking on these chats and just saying I walk into a dojo, I beat everybody up, and they don't want me back. I'm like, well, wonder why, right? I know that I can get beat, and I'm not there for that. Do you know what I mean? It's very stupid.
It is strange with that COVID thing that so many people getting angry online. That's not nice place to be in karate circles. I'm kind of withdrawing myself from it because whatever people post, it just goes people jumping on them with critical and nasty opinions. I don't mind critical but constructive, but just hate. It's not good, isn't it? What do you think?
It is, like, I've had chance to have a look at things now, and I think like I made a comment on Ian Abernethy's post because in one of his videos he seemed to come across like a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more annoyed, and that tends to be because we probably reading too many of the idiots kind of speaking, and you're doing a great thing. Do you know what I mean? And I wish I'd kind of seen it before, to be honest. But if people do that, it's more about their own issues, and it's jealousy, right? You're doing pretty much what they want to do, and they just haven't got time or making excuses, right? So, leave them to it.
I think it comes out from the insecurities and fear.
Yeah.
If you're secure and confident in yourself, your abilities, you don't have a need to belittle anybody else.
That's right. I mean, it's the example to the kids, like you're saying to the kids. I get a lot more, from the, like you say, the mentorship role with the kids. But when they get to the point that they can fight, they act like adults. They bring along the young kids. They don't bully kids. They're the ones that are going to school and coming in and saying, Sensei, just to let you know, this happened. And what did you do about it? And then, well, I did this and I spoke to the teacher. And you're thinking, my God, I wasn't that mature. Do you know what I mean? and it makes me really proud that I think that we can facilitate that. And that's my problem with kata and the formalized stuff. I think if you spend too much time not talking to your students and it being one direction, do this, do that, have 10 press-ups for talking back, that you never have a relationship with your students, therefore you don't know them, and then therefore you don't know what they're doing with what you're teaching them.
So I'm guessing you dropped off all the strict mannerism of karate. Everybody in line, nobody talks, no eating, no drinking. Well, no eating, obviously, no drinking and stuff. Because I found I actually learned that on my elderly. So soon I took that militaristic approach and be more open. The abilities went up and the learning went much quicker. So now we only do the starting ceremony and ending ceremony. But through the class, we are relaxed as anything. It's friendly and stuff. And no, I'm not the general to tell them what to do. I'm just somebody to advise and share my knowledge.
I'll tell you, I'll give you a really good analogy. This is ridiculous. I got the most random mind, honestly. I don't like the the shouting and all the that sort of stuff. So, because I've worked with kids in a very challenging set for like 17 years. So it's like I draw from that. And do you know that I'd seen the kids put on the other day was the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he tries taking his kind of skills from being a policeman across with a whistle, right?
Yeah.
But and then he makes it happen when he really acknowledges the needs of the kids first, and then uses the whistle. So like I use it like emergency procedures. The kids need to know when to stop when it's about emergency situations, So it's got its place, but those days are gone, and they should be long gone,
I teach only adults at the moment, so. Yeah. I don't need to that. We don't need the whistle. Everybody listens anyway. But for me, I as well moved away, and I'm interested if you moved as well. Not asking questions on a class. I encourage everybody to ask questions everywhere.
Yeah.
If you doubt of something, you need to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get the answer. You don't understand.
Yeah.
Is it the same in your club?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't remember which I watched the video, but someone was saying that basically, with the way that you coach, right? And you just get thrown into it. And I was lucky enough to have some more formalized teaching training. And even then, they got formulas that you have to stick to. So when I used to go to the club, I'd experiment with different things. And what when I've got so much energy to want to teach somebody something, sometimes I'm looking with this kind of pure enthusiasm, like, what you reckon of that? It's good, right? Because I'm trying to connect them with the feeling that I got when I learned it. And I'm looking at them and they're just like blank. And I'm like, my first reaction was disappointment, and then I realized that maybe I just haven't explained it in the way. So I tried to, in my head, mimic like 3 teachers that I had in school. So one teacher would just literally strip it down to less words. Another teacher would kind of act it out a little bit more dancey, a bit more playfully. And then one teacher would just show you over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So that's what I do. And I just keep doing that. So I ask them, do they understand? And then they no. And some people don't want to ask a question, right? Because they don't want to be the first question. Yeah. So I just keep looking at that kind of connection of emotion to say, well, actually, that's not working, that one style. So I'll jump over to showing it time and time again. And I use those sort of demonstration models for teaching. And I find then at the end they come up to me and then they ask me, and then I'll make sure I give time for that as well. So it's not always like that, but that's my go-to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny you just said about the feedback you're asking them about. I'm teaching online now. I've got a few people from different clubs, the instructors who are training with me.
Yeah.
And the feedback is, wow, do you always asking feedback questions in the end? I said, yes, because if I don't know what you're thinking, I'm not able to improve. Yeah. So you're using the same method to make it better.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about time, isn't it? And people have got very busy lives, and I also used to think I'd be encroaching on people's times when people are, looking at the clock towards the end of the lesson and things like that. And that's because you could say that you haven't engaged them in the activity as much, but it's also just as much about that person. So like I said, if I got to know somebody, I realized that actually this is not personal. They're not just trying to get out of my class at 9 o'clock. It's because they got a train to catch a 15:15. Yeah. If I didn't talk to them, I would have never known that. And I'd come in every lesson trying to please them, and I'd never get there because they're still going to get their train, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That'll be all my questions for you.
Cool.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
And I hope we're going to meet in real life.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Exchange some headbutts.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Not noses though, right?
It was a pleasure to have you, Mal, and I hope we speak soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on. All the best to you.